Hello and welcome to another game programming tutorial with Unity. In this tutorial we will going to explore how you can work with inheritance, which is a concept of object-oriented programming in the Unity. So what I've done for this example is going to be a very simple brief example. I've put in a plane in my 3D game and I've written 3 sets of scripts which I'm going to go over with you. But before I give you that introduction, let me explain to you what inheritance does, especially in game programming, and why do you want to have inheritance in a game programming. Generally speaking, in game programming we have a lot of objects which come from a common base. For example, if you are producing characters, those characters have some common traits. If I'm producing soldiers, if I'm producing a general, they both have some common characters from another object called army. So in order for me to represent the common characteristics, if I do not have a common base, I may have to reinvent the wheel and repeat those set of characters and properties and behaviors in each of the characters that I'm going to produce. So in order to save some time, we can create a base class or a parent class in which we can put in all the commonalities. And anything uncommon can be written out in the child. So anything in the parent can be initialized in the parent using a special method called Constructor. So the main idea of a constructor is to be able to initialize the basic properties of a class. So for that purpose, we have created a class called Creator. This class Creator has been defined with certain properties and has been defined with a constructor. Then we're also going to learn about the concepts of overriding and overloading. Let me tell you briefly what overriding and overloading are. So what overloading does, it allows you to create methods with the same name but different parameters within the same class or between the parent or the child classes. What overriding does, overriding allows you to create a method with the same name and same set of parameters between the parent and the child. So child can override a method in the parent when the child thinks that the method in the parent doesn't do exactly what the child wants to do, so it decides to write its own implementation of the method. On top of that, it's quite possible the child wants to expand on the parent's implementation, so the child can still call the one in the parent and can code something on top of that. So there are a lot of things that we're going to be exploring about that here in this example. So we have created a class called Creator. Now this class Creator is a child. So this is a symbol that we use in C# to establish a parent-child relationship, is a child of mono behavior. This class has 2 private properties, HP and nameC. In the constructor of the class, now if you go to the regular C#, the constructor of the class has the same name as a class. But in Unity, we use init, which is short for initialization. So init is the constructor of the class Creator, which takes 2 parameters. One is called nameC, the other one is called HP. These are their data types. Once it takes those parameters, it now needs to assign them to the class properties. Now this is another C# concept, that if the name of the parameter and the name of the property are exactly the same, then the property name must be preceded by the keyword this to show that this is the property and the other one is a parameter. Otherwise it gets confused as to who is who. So that's why we precede the property by the keyword this, and that's what I wrote in the comments too. Down below you have a method that we will going to overload this method. So we will going to overload this method. Therefore the method has been created with the word virtual. So the virtual means that this method will going to be overloaded. The name of the method is showStats. Now in this method we will simply going to display out on the screen hello I am and the name of the character followed by the HP of the character. Now this will going to be overridden by the children. So what we've decided to do, we've decided to do a couple of child classes, and here is one of the other child classes called Skeleton, and we have a child classes called Vampire. So we have 2 children classes. We created each one of these in the Unity, then we double clicked on it, and then we open this in Visual Studio to write some code on it. So if we go and check out the Vampire is a child of Creator, and again you see the same colon between a parent and a child, where Creator is a child of mono behavior. So Vampire is a child of Creator. In the start, Vampire calls the constructor of its parent. So base refers to parent, init refers to constructor and passes the two parameters. One is the name of the character and the other one is the HP of the character. Now notice this makes our life so much easier. Otherwise every class would have to come up with its own set of behaviors, which will be the replication of the behaviors that already exist in other classes. So it now simply makes a call. Then it has a local method showStats, and this is the same one that it has in the parent, but it is now overwriting. It means it's writing its own implementation. But when it writes its own implementation, the one in the parent is automatically overridden, means can't be called. So whenever we call showStats in Vampire, the one in the parent can't be called. So to make this happen, we now say inside the showStats, which is overridden, so first call the showStats in the parent, which will going to simply display hello, I am so-and-so and my HP is so-and-so. So in our case it'll say hello, I am Vampire and my HP is 2. And then followed by, it will going to display the special message that it wants to display in the showStats of the Vampire. Let's have a look at another child of creator called Skeleton. Skeleton does not decide to override the parent's implementation. Rather, it decides to call the parent's implementation only. So right here in the start, we are initializing the skeleton, saying skeleton is the name of the creature and its HP is 1, and it simply makes a call to showStats. So in Vampire, when it made a call to showStats, since there was a local implementation, that implementation was picked. In Skeleton, there's no local implementation of showStats, so the one in the parent automatically gets picked. So now let's switch back to Unity, and now let's run it. So when we run it, and let me switch over to console here so that you can see the output. And you can see over here, let me clear this. So now let's switch over to Unity, and in the Unity, let's play this game, and let's switch over to console. And in the console, you can see that hello, I'm Vampire and my HP is 2. This is coming out directly when the Vampire made a call to showStats. And that showStats automatically call the one in the parent. And then followed by a special message that is coming from the showStats of the Vampire. Followed by, hello, I'm Skeleton and my HP is 1. That is a call that is being taken place from the skeleton to the showStats in the parent. So, mainly speaking, whenever you do game programming, you need to draft your characters very efficiently. You need to draft them as objects. Each object should have a set of properties, should have a set of behaviors, and there is a whole hierarchy that you need to build and set up an inheritance path so that you can write it once and share it a million times. That's a more efficient way of coding. Catch you in another Unity programming tutorial. Till then, have a great